Discover the incredible 5-year journey of a hidden love that transformed their lives forever. In the quiet town of Maplewood, Sarah's heart beat with an unspoken longing that echoed through the fields far and wide. At 28, she was the unyielding backbone of her family, tethered to their small farm and the weight of obligation. Each day, she stitched her dreams into the fabric of night shifts at the local hospital, while her younger brother shot hoops outside, hoping for that elusive sports scholarship. The sun would set low, painting golden hues across the horizon, but inside her chest, shadows loomed a longing for life beyond the cornfields, dreams of travel, and possibilities that seemed impossible. Her heartache crescendoed when she met Jake, a mechanic with rough hands and a gentle smile, hiding his troubled past behind a charming exterior. With each accidental encounter over steaming cups of coffee at the diner, their conversations danced like fireflies on warm summer nights. They shared stories under a void of shining stars, clutching at fleeting dreams that burst forth like fireworks in the night. When Jake looked into her eyes, she felt the world melt away. The ache of family shoes pulled tight was momentarily forgotten, replaced with the sweet allure of hope, but trouble brewed. The moment Sarah's father discovered their budding romance, the air thickened with tension. "He's just a mechanic, Sarah," her father bellowed, his voice cutting through her like a bitter wind. Tradition hung heavy in the air, a chain pulling her back to the life she always knew. Was she willing to forfeit her heart to honor unyielding family expectations? The love that blossomed between Sarah and Jake began to feel like forbidden fruit, sweet but dangerous. Months turned into a year, and as love took root, so did doubt. A heartbreaking decision loomed like a storm cloud, and when she lost her nerve, their joyous memories became a shadow of what once was. Sarah closed herself off, locking away the vibrant emotions Jake had ignited in her. She drifted through life, tending to the farm and her father's needs, but the ache in her chest grew with each passing day. She tried to forget, but reminders were everywhere. Jake's laugh echoed in her mind, his gentle touch on her skin. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then, the storm finally broke. Maplewood was struck by tragedy. Floodwaters engulfed homes, uprooting lives, and in the chaos, Jake emerged a true hero. He risked his life to save neighbors trapped inside their homes, his bravery unmatched amidst the swirling waters. The entire town watched, wide-eyed and gasping, as he went beyond the call of duty. Sarah's heart raced, admiration and concern melded into a torrent of emotion. Could this moment change everything? With Jake's heroism, a ripple coursed through the town, shaking beliefs and values to their core. As her father witnessed the outpouring of love and respect for the man he dismissed, something shifted within him too. But would it be enough to mend the rift between father and daughter? For Sarah, the question loomed larger than ever: could she reclaim their lost love, or would the roots of expectation still hold her bound, anchored in a life half-lived? The days following the flood were a mix of disbelief and hope. Jake's heroism hung over Maplewood like a banner flapping in the wind, drawing everyone closer together. The local diner buzzed with tales of his courage, neighbors offering their gratitude, and even the town's most stoic elders had softened, breaking into applause when they saw him. Sarah could feel the shift beneath her feet, like the earth was reawakening after a long sleep, but her father remained a ghost of the man he used to be. He watched the news, grim-faced, as reports filled the screen with images of Jake's rescues. Sarah noticed the small flicker of respect beginning to light in her father's eyes, but it was barely like the first light of dawn against the deep night. How much longer would it take for him to truly see? A community gathering was planned for that Saturday, an event meant to honor Jake's bravery. As the date loomed, Sarah's heart fluttered with anticipation. It was her chance not just to support Jake, but to bridge the gaping chasm that had formed between her and her father. Maybe if she could stand in the light of Jake's courage, it would illuminate her own desires, her own longings that had been kept in the shadows far too long. That morning, she slipped into a simple white sundress, its lightness a contrast to the weight she felt inside. The sun warmed her skin, but all she could think about was Jake. Memories flooded back, the smell of the engine grease mixed with freshly cut grass, the warmth of his hand brushing against hers, and their shared laughter echoing against the backdrop of endless skies. When she arrived at the community center, a wave of nervous energy washed over her. The room was buzzing with people, lanterns strung from the ceiling casting soft, warm light. As she entered, discussions hushed momentarily. Glances turned her way, eyes filled with curiosity, and the potential for judgment. That it didn't take long for Jake to arrive, his presence commanding attention as he stepped through the doorway. The crowd erupted, clapping and cheering, and Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes as he smiled sheepishly, a hero unsure of his worth. She could see in him a mix of pride and embarrassment. He wasn't used to this kind of adulation. As Jake spoke, recounting snippets of his harrowing experiences during the flood, Sarah hung on his every word. "I was just doing what anyone would do," he insisted humbly, his voice steady but earnest. But Sarah knew better. He was extraordinary. The bravery he had shown was a candle in the dark for everyone in town, including her father. Caught in the moment, Sarah glanced sideways at her father, hoping for a glimpse of recognition. To her surprise, she caught him nodding slightly, a hint of respect etched on his face. Was this enough to break years of walls built around his heart? The evening wore on, punctuated by speeches and laughter as the town came together. It felt like healing in action. But as Sarah's heart swelled with new hope, she sensed that the real challenge wasn't just reclaiming a love lost. It was the fight against the expectations that had defined her life for so long. As Jake approached her later in the night, she could feel her pulse quickening. Could he see it too? The uncertainty, the pull between family obligation and personal desire. "I was worried you wouldn't come," Jake admitted, his voice barely a whisper, eyes searching hers. "I needed to," she managed to reply, feeling the weight of her words. In that small moment, the entire spectrum of their shared past flickered dangerously, and Sarah realized she could no longer stand on the sidelines. "Jake, there's something I need to tell you," she said, feeling the gravity of her confession. But before she could shape the words, her father stepped forward, blocking their path, face set like stone but eyes flickering with something unrecognizable. What would he say? Would he cut her off again? In that heartbeat, Sarah knew that everything could change at this moment. Would she find the courage to speak her truth, or would she retreat again into the shadows? As her heart raced, the room hummed with tension and anticipation, uncertainty thick in the air. Time seemed to freeze. What would he reveal? Her father's presence loomed large before her, a wall of uncertainty mixed with pent-up emotions. The smile that had graced Jake's lips faded as he shifted uneasily, caught in the tension. Sarah's heart thudded loud in her chest. Every moment felt stretched beyond time. "Dad," she started, but the words caught in her throat. The man she had once known, whose laughter echoed through her childhood, stood like a boulder, immovable and silent. "Sarah, we need to talk." His voice was deep, steady, rooted in authority, but there was a crack in it, an uncertainty that Sarah had never heard before. The room buzzed softly around them, the celebration of Jake's bravery fading into the background as her focus sharpened on her father. "Please." It wasn't an invitation, it was a plea. She needed him to see her, to truly see her, not just as a daughter but as someone fighting to break free. Jake stepped closer, ready to support her, but she sensed he felt the tension gripping her father too. "Not here." The words came out harsh, particularly in the warmth-filled room. Her father stepped back, crossing his arms defensively. The soft lights above shimmered against the tired lines of his face, revealing the weight of a storm brewing within him. A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. She wanted to scream, to fight against the age-old barriers they had built. Did he not understand how much this meant to her? Did he not witness the shifts in the community that mirrored her own need for acceptance? "Why can't you just see me?" she whispered, the emotion spilling over. You always look at Jake and see a hero. But what about me? Don't I deserve to be seen, too? His eyes softened momentarily, and she saw flickers of understanding. It faltered, though, overshadowed by years of unspoken expectations. You think this is easy for me? His voice was lower now, more vulnerable. You're chasing after some fantasy with him while I'm trying to hold this family together. Dad, it's not a fantasy. Jake interjected, stepping in, his voice almost protective. I care about Sarah. She means something to me, to both of us. She deserves happiness. Her father scoffed softly. Happiness? Or is it just rebellion against what you think life should be? There was a bite to it, an accusation that went deeper than either of hers could articulate. But Sarah fought back, biting her tongue to keep her emotions in check. This was not just about her and Jake, it was about breaking a cycle of silence that had wrapped its way around them like vines choking a tree. She could feel the energy in the room shift, the weight of every heart beating in tandem with hers. Dad, I'm not asking for permission. I'm asking for understanding. I'm trying to find my own way in all this, not just following some path laid down for me, she said, her voice gaining strength. The room around them held its breath. Sarah's friends watched with wide eyes, tension ripe in the air. She could almost hear the whispers of their excitement, some hushed gasps, and shared nervous glances. Is this what you want? Her father said finally, the hesitation lingering. His gaze darted to Jake, then back to her, searching. You're willing to risk everything? Yes, Sarah replied, a fire igniting in her chest. For love, for my happiness. It's my life, Dad. An unexpected silence engulfed them. Her father seemed to deflate, shadows flickering in his eyes. The moment felt pivotal, like the stillness before a thunderous storm. What hung in the balance was uncertain, but Sarah felt hope swirling somewhere within the tension. Would her father finally open up, or would he retreat? Please, let us talk about it, she urged gently, hoping he would see this as a chance, not just for her but for them. Jake stood steady beside her, ready for whatever outcome awaited them. But as they all waited for her father's response, Sarah sensed the weight of choices swirling around them, options both liberating and terrifying. Would this be the moment of truth that could change everything? The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Sarah could almost hear the clock ticking in the corner of the room, its steady rhythm contrasting sharply with the chaos of emotions swirling inside her. Her father's eyes bore into hers, his expression a labyrinth of confusion and frustration. Sarah, you need to understand, he began, his voice edged with desperation. Understand what? She interrupted, stepping forward. That I'm supposed to live a life you've planned out for me? That I'm supposed to ignore who I truly am? Jake shifted beside her, his support a reassuring presence, but Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down on both of them. Her father took a deep breath, and for a moment, they all held their breath, waiting for him to find the words to bridge the gulf between them. I'm scared, he admitted, his voice dropping to a near whisper. This isn't just about you and Jake. It's about everything, what people will say, what it means for our family. I don't want you to get hurt. The raw honesty in his words struck Sarah like a blow. Dad, I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. You remember when I used to run outside and climb those trees in the backyard? I wanted to feel free, to escape. Isn't that what you wanted for me? A flicker of pain crossed her father's face. Of course, but that was when you were a child. These decisions, they affect your future. They could change everything. Maybe change is what we need. She shot back. Maybe living authentically is more important than the fear of other people's judgments. The room hushed further, the voices of her friends diminished into a silent backdrop, their shoulders tense as they absorbed every word. Sarah could see fear in their eyes, mirroring the fear in her father's. But within that, there was also something else, a glimmer of understanding. Sarah, her father said, extending his hands as if trying to catch the emotions spilling between them. You think you can just walk away from our family's legacy? From what your mother and I built. My legacy isn't bound to a house or a name, she responded, each word tumbling out with renewed clarity. It's my heart. You should know that. Her father's brow furrowed, thought lines distinct against his forehead. With each second, Sarah felt the moment slow down, like watching a freight train approach, an inevitability waiting to unfold. Maybe he hesitated, his voice trailing off, maybe I've held on too tightly. Maybe I haven't given you the space to be yourself. Sarah's pulse quickened. Was this what she had needed to hear? It feels like a cage, she whispered. I don't want to find myself lost in a life that isn't mine. His eyes softened again, a glint of recognition breaking through the hardest defenses. The battle lines between father and daughter began to blur, resolutions in the making. Maybe hope wasn't finished with them yet. Can we try to understand each other then? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. Can we start trying? The words opened a door, and Sarah felt a breath of relief. Yes, Dad. I want us to try. Their eyes locked, a fragile connection suspended between them, while silence hung in the air, but just as the beginnings of a breakthrough shimmered in their hearts, a loud crash echoed from the other room, cutting through their moment. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat as she turned toward the sound, emotions swirling wildly again in the aftermath. What was that? She breathed, the uncertainty tightening her chest. Jake stepped closer, sensing her distress. I'll check it out, he said, his voice steady. But as he moved toward the door, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that a new storm was brewing, one that could tear down the walls they had started to build. What awaited them on the other side of the door? Jake opened the door cautiously, the old hinges squeaking in protest. Flickering light from the kitchen spilled into the hallway, but the room beyond was dimmed with shadows. Sarah felt her breath hitch as fear coiled in her stomach. The crash was sudden and unexpected, and adrenaline coursed through her veins. Jake, wait! She called out, despite knowing it was too late. He had already taken a step inside, scanning the room for the source of the commotion. The kitchen was a mess. Dishes lay shattered on the floor, glass glittering like lost stars. Chairs were overturned, leaving an ominous invitation to chaos. What happened? Sarah's voice trembled with concern as she moved closer, her heart pounding. Jake crouched next to a chair, lifting it upright. Looks like someone knocked over the table, he observed, his tone calm yet cautious. He glanced over at her, searching for reassurance. It helped ease the tightness in Sarah's chest. Maybe it was Emily and Mark getting a little rowdy, Jake suggested, more to lighten the heavy mood than anything else. Sarah shook her head, trying to smile. We should known they'd be trouble. But the humor fell flat. The weight of her father's earlier words loomed larger now, mingled with the uncertainty spilling from the open door. Then, a muffled voice came from behind the counter, barely audible above the residue of shattering glass. Guys? Is everything all right? Emily? Sarah called out, urgency mingling with relief. The uncertainty heightened as Emily peeked out, ginger hair slightly tousled, eyes wide with fear. Yeah, I'm fine. Just we were trying to help with dinner, she admitted, bit by bit crawling into view. But when Mark tried to reach for the pasta, the whole thing just you see. What a disaster, Sarah said, trying to absorb the moment, feeling the tension shift back just a little. As Emily stepped fully into view, Sarah noticed something else, an unmistakable seriousness behind her friend's light-hearted demeanor. Hey, you okay? She asked, moving closer. Emily hesitated for a moment, biting her lip. Yeah, I didn't expect all of this to happen tonight. I know it's a lot. Your family matters, they're complicated. Sarah exchanged glances with Jake, and in that shared look, they both felt a weight they hadn't anticipated. Complicated didn't begin to cover it. How could they all understand each other's burdens when their own felt so heavy? Let's just clean this up first, Jake suggested, returning to a practical mindset. He reached for a broom propped against the wall, a plan emerging in his steady movements. Yeah, good idea, Sarah replied, hoping action would ground her swirling emotions. With Emily and Jake by her side, she felt the walls of dread begin to shrink, if only a little. Each movement, every gesture, was a heartbeat back toward connection, but just as they started picking up pieces, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket, an unwelcome lightning bolt of interruption. She pulled it out, fingers trembling slightly. The message was from her mother. "Sweetheart, we need to talk about this family meeting. I'm worried." Her heart sank, and the reality of everything, the dinner, the chaos, her father's fear flooded back. "Great," she murmured under her breath. "Everything all right?" Jake asked, glancing over instinctively. "No, not really," she replied, dread gnawing at her for what lay ahead. "It's my mom." Emily watched, concern painting her features. "Is it about your dad?" "Yeah," Sarah admitted, biting back a wave of frustration. "She's going to want to make sure I'm doing what's expected." Suddenly, the delicate filaments of understanding that had begun to weave themselves in her interactions with her father felt far less secure. "Will this ever end?" she whispered, her voice lost in the tumult of emotions swirling in the kitchen. At that moment, the tension thickened. They were caught in a web of expectations and choices, entangled in chaos. "Let us put the pieces back together first," Jake urged softly, helping to sweep up the spilled fragments. But in the silence that followed, a question lingered. Could they truly piece together their lives if they couldn't even face the heart of their struggles? And what would Sarah discover about herself when that family meeting took place? As Sarah stared at her phone, the air felt thicker, each passing second stretching into eternity. She knew her mom was coming from a place of concern, yet all it did was heighten her own anxiety. The very idea of a family meeting felt like a storm cloud looming overhead, ready to burst. "Let us just get through this," she whispered more to herself than anyone else. She returned her attention to the mess in front of her. Glass shards sparkled on the floor like tiny tears she dared not cry. As they worked together, Emily moved closer, her hands deftly picking up pieces of broken ceramic. "You know, Sarah," she said softly, glancing up, "it's okay to feel overwhelmed. You don't have to carry all of this by yourself." Jake nodded in agreement, pausing for a moment to catch Sarah's eye. "Yeah, we've got your back. Whatever it is, we can face it together." Their support felt like a warm blanket amidst the frost of anxiety wrapping around her. Yet the relief was fleeting. The weight of her mother's expectations seemed to loom larger with every reassuring word. She took a deep breath. "Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you being here. It's what friends are for, right?" Emily's smile was bright, a small beacon of hope. But before Sarah could respond, another buzz interrupted them, another message from her mother. She glanced at the screen, and her breath caught in her throat. It was a group chat with her dad included. The last message read, "We'll talk at dinner. Please be there on time." A new wave of dread washed over her. I just wish it could be different," she murmured, dropping the remnants of what was once a bowl. It shattered on impact, mirroring the mounting chaos in her life. "Different how?" Jake asked gently, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Just I don't know. Less messy." She laughed a little, though it felt hollow. No pun intended. "But seriously, all this drama feels endless." "Change doesn't happen overnight," Emily chimed in, placing a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. "You just have to take it one step at a time. It might help clear up the mess." Sarah nodded slowly, considering Emily's words. "Yeah, maybe you're right." Just then, the front door swung open, and Mark came bounding in, bright-eyed and oblivious to the sinking mood. "Hey! I brought dessert." He held up a box of donuts, the sugary smell lifting all their spirits even if just for a fleeting moment. "Wow, what did I miss?" Mark surveyed the kitchen, eyes widening at the sight of the chaos. "Just a little kitchen disaster, no biggie," Jake replied, grinning. But you might want to steer clear of what's left of dinner. Mark shrugged, setting the box down on the corner of the counter. I'm sure we can rebuild a feast from the ashes. Right? Right, Sarah echoed, a flicker of hope sparking within her. Together. They all pitched in, clearing the debris of shattered dishes while sharing laughter, teasing each other like old friends. For a moment, the kitchen filled with warmth, their camaraderie overshadowing the earlier gloom. But even among the laughter, the looming family meeting tugged at Sarah's mind. As she wiped her hands on a rag, she wrestled with her inner turmoil. What would happen when they all sat down together? Suddenly, the kitchen became quiet, and the air shifted. Emily glanced toward Sarah, her face serious. Whatever happens, just know we'll be right there with you. The promise hung in the air, both comforting and filled with uncertainty. Thanks, guys, Sarah started, her voice barely above a whisper. But then the doorbell rang, echoing through the tension-filled kitchen. That's probably your mom, Jake said, glancing at Sarah, a new wave of urgency washing over them all. As she moved toward the door, uncertainty gnawed at her. What awaited her on the other side? Would she find support, or was this the moment everything shifted, unveiling truths better left hidden? With every step, Sarah felt the tide of change swelling, anxious to crash against the shore of her life. What would happen when she finally opened that door? As Sarah's hand hovered over the doorknob, time seemed to coil and stretch into a tight spring, ready to snap. The doorbell rang again, fracturing the moment. Sarah, you okay? Emily's voice was soft, almost a whisper. She took a breath, summoning whatever courage she could muster. Yeah, I just opened the door, Jake encouraged gently, stepping back to give her space. With a shaky exhale, Sarah turned the knob and pulled the door open. A rush of cold air greeted her like an unexpected slap. Her mother stood there, framed in the evening light, her face a mixture of determination and concern. Hi, sweetie, her mother said, her voice laced with warmth but edged with a hint of urgency. Hey, Mom. The word came out more as an exhale than a greeting. Sarah glanced back at her friends, finding their unwavering support in the background. They exchanged reassuring nods, grounding her in a moment she feared might unravel at any second. Can we come in? Her mother asked, a slight edge creeping into her tone as she stepped across the threshold, followed by Sarah's dad, who carried a heavy air of seriousness. Sure, Sarah murmured, stepping aside as they entered. The sight of her mother's tailored outfit and her dad's gripping the shoulder of a briefcase made Sarah's stomach churn. It wasn't just a family meeting, it was a reckoning. The kitchen felt smaller now, crowded, each person's silent expectation pressing in on her. Her mom placed a hand on the countertop, a fortress of porcelain and spilled hope. We need to talk, she said, her eyes flickering between Sarah and the mess they'd just made of their lives. The humor of donuts now dampened. With each word, Sarah's heart thudded louder, the weight of it pounding in her ears. About what? She managed to ask, though the answer loomed large and ominous in the air. There was a beat of silence, heavy and charged. Dad shifted his weight, clearing his throat. It's about your future, Sarah. Her breath hitched. The future? Was she just trying to make it through today? She had hoped for connection, maybe understanding. Instead, it felt like they were summoning a storm. What about it? She pressed, her voice steady, though inside, her nerves were a tangled mess. We've noticed you're distant lately, her mom said. You're not really engaging with your studies, your friends, or us, her dad interjected softly, pain glistening behind his eyes. In that moment, every laugh shared in the kitchen, every bit of comfort seemed to shrink away, leaving only the grim truth exposed. Sarah had been hiding, avoiding, pretending everything was fine. You don't understand, she whispered. There's so much going on. Mark shifted uncomfortably, stepping back as if the gravity of her family's matter bore down on them all. Then let us talk about it, her mother urged, leaning forward, her hand outstretched, urging connection. But what if I can't? Sarah's voice quavered, the vulnerability shocking her. She was tethered to their expectations, pulled tight like a violin string ready to snap. Jake reached out and squeezed her shoulder, grounding her with a strong but gentle grip. "You don't have to do this alone," he murmured, his voice low and steady. That small gesture made her heart swell with gratitude, a reminder of the love surrounding her. Yet the churning confusion within her still clawed to be heard, begging for clarity amidst all the noise. Maybe I'll be ready to talk if we all sit down together," Sarah said, her voice finding strength in the uncertainty. Her mom's eyes softened. "We're here for you," she promised, but the tension remained, like a tenuous line drawn between them. As they settled into stools, Sarah could feel the weight of anticipation, something shifting in the air. All her fears and truths, the worries she harbored, the love she craved hung exposed, ready to be laid bare. Before she could take another breath, Mark's phone buzzed loudly, breaking the intensity. Guys? What if we... What? They all chorused, suddenly drawn to the sound that interrupted the moment. Mark turned pale. Checking his screen. "You all need to see this, it's about the school. There's been an incident. A serious one." The air turned electric again, confusion spilling over from the prior moment. What was happening now? What did this mean for Sarah and her family? As Sarah's mind raced, she faced a choice. What would the coming revelations mean for her future, and would she be strong enough to face them all head-on? Sarah's heart raced as Mark held up his phone, the screen glowing ominously in the kitchen light. The room fell silent, everyone's eyes darting towards the image that seemed to pulse like a warning siren. With a trembling hand, Mark read aloud, "An incident at Oak Ridge High. Police are currently on the scene, and students are advised to stay indoors. More information will be provided shortly." Panic washed over Sarah. She felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Oak Ridge High. That was her school. Emotions churned in her like a storm, fear for her friends, dread at what could have happened. What do they mean? Is everyone okay? She shot up, the kitchen chair scraping harshly against the tiled floor. Her mom grabbed her arm, squeezing tightly. "We should remain calm. Let us wait for more details." But Sarah could see the worry etched deep into her mother's forehead. Mark stared at his phone, eyes wide. "I can try calling." "No." Sarah snapped, the word bursting from her. "What if someone's hurt? We need to help." The tension thickened. Jake stood beside her, quiet but solid, grounding her. "We will find out soon. Maybe it's nothing," he offered, though his eyes betrayed a shared uncertainty. Her dad shifted, glancing out the window as if the answers lay beyond the glass. "We need to make sure you're safe, Sarah. If it's serious, you're not going back until we know. But we can't just sit here." Sarah was practically screaming now, her pulse racing. It felt like the walls were closing in on her. "I have to know if my friends are okay. What if they need help? What if..." "Let us not jump to conclusions," her mother soothed, but the tightness in her voice said otherwise. "We're all in this together. Just give it a moment." A moment. That simple phrase had never felt so heavy. Sarah paced, her racing thoughts threatening to spiral out of control. Each tick of the clock echoed like a reminder of time slipping away. "I can't just wait. I need to know. I should get to the school. I can't just, that's not safe." Her dad interjected, his voice rising with concern. "You don't know what's happening out there." She felt her heart sink. But what if it's something really bad? What if? But she couldn't finish that thought. The weight of it choked her up. That eye in the corner. Mark's phone buzzed again. "Wait," he said, quickly glancing at it, "there's an update. It's a lockdown, but they don't have details. Just that everyone must stay inside." "Stay inside," she echoed, the phrase falling heavy against her chest. Each person in the room was a bundle of blurred emotions, uncertainties hanging taut like an unstrung bow. Sarah felt regret creeping in for the anger she had expressed only moments ago. but now she was wrestling with fear for her friends, her schoolmates, even the anxiety was all-consuming. "Maybe we should text your friends?" Emily suggested, stepping forward to grab her own phone. "Yes." Sarah nodded eagerly, her pulse quickening at the thought of reaching out. "They need to know we're thinking of them." Paranoia clawed at her as she waited for pings, lighting up the dark space. Her body felt alive with anticipation and dread. As the texts flew around, she glanced at Jake, who remained close. He looked at her with concern, and for a fleeting moment, she felt a flicker of strength in that gaze. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. She grabbed it quickly, her heart jolting as she recognized the name. It was Lisa, one of her closest friends. "Sarah. Are you okay? We're hiding in the science lab. We heard a gunshot. Help." The blood drained from her face. Her world spun. The realization of the unfolding chaos gripped her, and it was almost too much to bear. "Oh God." As she choked back a wave of fear, her friends all stared. The weight of her next words felt insurmountable. Would she be able to muster the strength to face whatever was coming? "Everyone, we need to do something now," she said, steeling herself, the urgency bleeding into her voice. "We can't just sit here. I have to get to them." The determination settled in her chest, pushing against the fear. But deep down, she knew, this wasn't just about helping her friends. It was about choosing to confront her own hidden struggles, but just as she prepared to spring into action, a loud siren echoed outside, slicing through the air, bringing with it a fresh wave of dread. What awaited her beyond the door? Would she find the courage to step into the unknown, not just for her friends, but for herself? The moment hung like a gossamer thread, ready to be severed. Would she leap into the storm? The loud siren blared, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. It was the sound of urgency, of chaos just beyond their doorway. She looked around the kitchen, taking in the worried faces of her family and friends. Everyone seemed frozen, caught between fear and the instinct to act. "Are you sure?" Jake asked quietly, his voice steady but filled with an underlying tension. "What if something else is happening out there?" Sarah could feel the weight of his words, heavy like a dark cloud. But as their eyes met, she could see the determination reflected back. They had to act. "I can't just sit here while Lisa's in danger," she insisted, voice trembling but determined. "We have to help them." "Sarah, think." Mark chimed in, his expression stricken. "What if you get caught in whatever is happening?" But Sarah was already moving. The need to reach her friends had ignited something fierce inside her. "I don't care. They're scared, and I'm scared. I can't leave them." She felt a swell of courage, fierce enough to go up against the panicked atmosphere in the room. "Let me come with you," Jake said, stepping closer. "You shouldn't go alone." Before she could respond, her father interjected. "No. You both don't understand how dangerous this is." "Dad," Sarah pleaded, "if it's as bad as Lisa said, they need us. We have to do something." Her mother exchanged a worried look with her father but then reached out, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Honey, I understand you want to help your friends. But we have to be smart about this." "Smart? Hiding here is not smart." She shouted back, her frustration boiling over. "If I don't leave now, what is going to happen to them?" There was a moment of silence, a tightening of tension so thick it felt suffocating. "Fine," her father finally relented, "but I want you both to stick together. No heroics. If you see anything unsafe, we get out." Jake finished, and Sarah nodded. The siren quieted for a moment only to be replaced by muffled voices and distant shouts. Sarah's heart raced as she pulled on her sneakers, a part of her still unsure of what lay ahead. "We need to go now," she urged, practically running toward the door. Mark looked hesitant but then followed them. "I'll keep my phone on. If anything happens, we'll call for help." As the trio stepped outside, the world felt surreal. The cold air hit Sarah's face like a slap, grounding her. The school was just a few blocks away, but the sight of police cars darting by twisted her stomach. Each siren, each strong light sent another wave of fear crashing over her. They moved as quietly as possible, keeping their heads low, the oppressive fear wrapping around them like a cloak. Suddenly, Sarah spotted a familiar figure in the distance. "It's Lisa!" she cried, pointing as she sprinted towards the shadow that held her friend. Joy and relief surged through her, but just as quickly it twisted into dread when the figure turned. It wasn't Lisa, just a student hunched over, face buried in their hands. "Wait," Jake whispered, but it was too late. Her body was already moving towards it. "Are you okay?" Sarah called, the urgency pumping adrenaline into her veins. The student looked up, eyes wild with panic. "They're in there. They're trapped." Sarah's heart dropped. She could feel the hopes drain from her chest. "What do you mean? Who's trapped?" Before the student could answer, there was a crackle over the police loudspeaker, demanding everyone to flee the area. Panic surged, and Sarah's mind raced. "We can't just leave them." She took a deep breath. "We have to think. What can we do?" That's when she noticed something in the distance, a cluster of worried students peeking through the windows, desperate and frightened. "Jake, we need to find a way in," she said, her voice steadying. "Everyone is counting on us." But what lay ahead? Would they find a way to save their friends? Or would they step into a situation far worse than they imagined? In that moment, the stakes couldn't feel higher. Sarah felt the weight pressing down harder than ever. The aftermath of the turmoil settled into an eerie stillness as Sarah, Jake, and Mark stood at the edge of the chaos. They were now more than just friends caught in a moment, they were protectors, standing ready to confront the storm. "Okay, we need to stay focused," Sarah urged, her heart pounding. There was a seriousness in her tone that pushed against fear. "If people are trapped, we can't just leave. We have to find a way to help." When they reached the school, the air was electric with fear and uncertainty. Around them, students peeked from windows, some crying, others clutching their phones as if that would somehow shield them from what was happening. "Where do you think Lisa is?" Mark asked, his voice strained. "She was in the science lab." "We should start there," Jake replied, pushing open a side door that creaked under the pressure. As they entered the building, the atmosphere shifted. The typical noise of bustling students was replaced with the distant echo of chaos. Their footsteps felt loud, each beat amplified against the walls. Sarah glanced at Jake, and they nodded, an unspoken agreement buzzing between them. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. The science lab wasn't far, but each classroom they passed felt like a reminder of the weight of their mission. Hope and fear danced together in Sarah's chest. They arrived at the door to the science lab, which was ajar. Slowly, she pushed it open, revealing a dim room filled with shadows, terrified students huddled together, eyes wide, whispering prayers into the silence. "Lisa!" Sarah called, scanning the room frantically. At the sound of her name, Lisa jumped up from her corner. "Sarah! Thank God! I was so scared." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "You're okay." Relief surged through her, and with it, a sense of urgency. "But what is happening?" "There was a loud noise, and we heard shouting. We locked the door, but I think there are people trapped outside." Lisa's hands trembled as she spoke. Sarah turned to Jake and Mark, the weight of the moment heavy. "We have to get them out. If they're scared, they need to know they're not alone." Just as she felt the surge of bravery, another voice echoed from the back of the room. "You don't understand. There are others still out there." A girl, her face pale, stepped forward. "We heard the police say to stay inside, we could get in trouble. But what if they're hurt?" Sarah pleaded, her heart racing. "We can't just stay here while others are out there needing help." Jake stepped forward, taking charge. Let us help, all of us. We'll go back outside, check it out. Stick together, and if anything feels off we'll come back. Mark finished, the rallying courage bringing strength to the group. The students looked at each other, uncertainty fueling their fear. But Sarah seized the moment. Let us be brave, not just for ourselves but for each other. We have to stick together. After a pause, Lisa nodded, her voice firm. Okay, let us do this. With a collective breath, they moved as one, sprinklers softly activating to wash away fear, even as the sirens blared outside. Together, they dashed across the hall, their hearts beating in sync, like a marching band ready for battle. As they neared the school's entrance, another sound cut through the chaos, a knock at the door. Without hesitation, Sarah swung it open, revealing a group of terrified students huddled together, clinging to each other. Oh, thank God. We thought we were going to be stuck forever. One girl cried, relief flooding her. Come on. Jake urged, beckoning them inside. You're safe now. With a surge of energy, the crowd enveloped them. Sarah felt the warmth of connection, they were all in this together. As they gathered everyone inside, the sirens faded, replaced by frantic voices of police officers commanding calmness outside. Yet among the chaos, Sarah felt a sense of purpose blooming within her heart. She had fought against shadows for too long, hidden away by the weight of her obligations. Here and now, side by side with her friends, she realized that stepping into uncertainty was how she would find her own light. I want to thank you all, she said, her voice steady and full of hope. Today we faced fears together, and we're stronger for it. When we walk out that door, we will do it together, for each other. A chorus of agreement echoed around her, and she felt every heart beating stronger. With one last look at their togetherness, they all stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. Then, as they opened the door to the outside world, sunlight spilled in, illuminating their resolve. As they entered into the light, Sarah took a deep breath, realizing this was not just a moment of survival, it was a collective reconnection, a moment of transformation. Now, with family conspiracies and expectations finally exposed, she felt lighter. The love she harbored for Jake shimmered bright, no longer hidden in shadows. It was a beginning for them all, and as they walked into an uncertain tomorrow, Sarah knew she was ready to claim her life as her own. It was finally time to shine. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support the channel.